Welcome, gamers, to this week's episode of Last Call Gaming. We're on episode 111. My name is Craig Perales, a.k.a. Connor Kent, and this is Mandrew Montemayor, a.k.a. David Powers on this Halloween episode. And
Happy Halloween!
Yeah, we're having fun. Andrew had a nice little costume party at his work. You had a little fun. I know you're a little disappointed, but...
I don't even want to get into that sort of whatever. But yeah, we did a Halloween thing at work, so that's why we're dressed up a little bit early. That and who knows what's going on Sunday. Everyone goes their separate ways.
Yeah, there's a bunch of different parties and stuff people want to get to. But I just want to say, jump down below and let us know what you're dressing up as for Halloween.
I always love to see it.
Yeah, I always love jumping on like Facebook and like seeing everyone's pictures and all that stuff. So leave it down in the comments below what you guys are wearing and what you're dressing up as. So before we get moving along with the episode, guys, if you're watching the YouTube version of the show, please hit a like, give us a comment down below, and definitely be a subscriber. And if you can, share the video to anyone you know, everyone that might be interested in it. If you guys are interested in following us on our social medias, check out our Linktree link. That'll take you to our Facebook, our Instagram, etc. And if you guys are listening to the audio-only version of this podcast, check us out at Anchor, which is our home for the podcast, and it can take you to Spotify and Apple Podcasts and things like that. So, as we like to do so, guys, we like to drink beers on the show. I actually picked this one out. This is the Pumpkin Porter on being brewed by the Four Peaks Brewing Company, 8th Street Brewery. This is a 5%er located in Arizona, United States, and it's a rotating seasonal. Now, Andrew and I don't think are either big fans of like pumpkin stuff in general outside of the pie.
Pumpkin pie,
but I mean, it's not bad. I mean, I know people, girls and shit, go crazy for like pumpkin spice lattes, but I thought this was going to be a lot worse than it was, but surprisingly it's not bad.
The first drink wasn't good, but now that I'm drinking it like a little bit more, I mean, I'm not 2 in, but like 3 or 4 drinks in, I'd say it tastes a lot better. It's actually fine. I don't think I would get it if I was like out at like dinner or something like that.
Yeah, definitely not.
To me, but
yeah, so I don't know. It's got a cool design. I figure it fits the theme, and
maybe an 8 ounce.
Oh yeah, there you go. So before we went into our stories, guys, we'd like to go over our what are you up to, where Andrew and I take a second to talk about what we've been doing, what we've been playing, what we've been watching, and the whatnot. So Andrew, what have you been up to, my man? We haven't seen you in a week or so because we've both been gone. So what have you been up to?
I actually went to California to go see my dad for his birthday. Kind of surprised him out there. His birthday's on the 26th. I went before that. Didn't tell him I was coming. So went out there, went around town, hit up a few shops, bought some cool things, got a few presents for a few guys here. But I went and saw Halloween Kills while I was out there with my dad. I'm a huge horror fan, so I love those kinds of movies. I personally didn't really care for this one. There's some cool stuff and concepts to it, but I don't know. I don't want to get into the weeds with that. That's a different conversation. I'm still playing Metroid Dread. I've been kind of dragging ass in again because I've been traveling with that. But I would say I have maybe like 2 hours left in the game. At first, when I was playing it, I was like, it's just like another Metroidvania. You might as well play like Super Metroid. I don't really... Maybe it's always the second half of the game that's better, because that's when you start getting all the powers, all the different movements, and you're kind of cruising through the fucking map, and not everything's just locked off to you. But I feel like I'm just like flying through versus trying to dodge the same enemy like 40 different times, that I'm having way more fun with it. Because at first I was like, I don't know if this is like really 9/9 material. People are raving about it. It's really cool and all, and there's things I would like to add and see to it.
Potential game of the year at all, in your opinion?
I think now that I'm on the back half of it, and I'm really, I feel like it really opens up once you get the, like, at least the double jump ability. Because before that, it's always frustrating. It's almost like when, I'm sure when you play Castlevania Symphony of the Night, when you're going back and forth, it's annoying having to deal with the same enemies, especially when they have crazy movement, trying to get around them and just, all right, I'm just going to eat the fucking hit to get through. Yeah. But once you get the double jump, that's when you're like, okay, cool. Now I'm more willing to explore and see what's over there because I don't have to deal with this bullshit as much.
Yeah, definitely. What have you been playing? That's everything, and then you watched that. Anything else, my man?
Nah, I didn't got nothing else. What have you
right. So what I've been up to, and the main reason we kind of took a break is obviously Andrew left, but I had a surprise birthday trip to Orlando, Florida. The Andrew
that I paid for.
Yeah, the Andrew snuck it up on me good. She's like, yeah, we'll go to Vegas. We'll do like a lunch or something. I was like, okay, cool. She had a bag packed for me, ticket bought for me, and we went out there. So we went to Disney World. We did the park hopper for Universal. And then we hit up a couple of cool comic shops like Gods and Monsters.
Looked great.
Was awesome, man. It was this badass little comic book shop that you could... it in the back, there was like a hidden door, and it was like a bar that they had. So it was all Halloween themed. So it was a lot of fun. So I had a blast doing that. As far as what I was watching, I've just been kind of catching up on my Squid Game. I made it to episode 4, so I'm not done with it yet. Did you finish it?
No, I haven't either. I think I'm on episode 6.
Okay, cool. I heard episode 6 is when it gets a little sad. So, and then I've been catching up on my Titans, which is on HBO Max, which is, for me, a lot better than the original
I heard the Red Hood season's good.
Yeah, it's really cool. But the inspiration for my costume is the Connor Kent from Young Justice. Young Justice is, the 4th season is actually out now, and the first 3 episodes are on HBO Max. So if you guys, in my opinion, Young Justice season 1 is one of the best adaptations of like comic book cartoon ever. But it's out, and if you guys want to check it out, you definitely can. I think it's still a solid show. But as far as what I was playing, I needed something kind of low key to get back into it. And Dragon Ball Fighter Z, apparently I never beat that one. It just dropped on the Game Pass.
I forgot to download that.
Yeah, it's actually pretty quick. It's got 3 different storylines. There's a hero storyline, there's a villain storyline, and there's an android storyline, all focusing around Android 21. So it's actually developed by Arc System and published by Bandai Namco. So if you're looking for like a quick little fighting game, it's actually a lot of fun. Other than that, Geno came over and we actually beat Diablo 2 today. So that's off my backlist. And then now that Andrew and I are both getting kind of closer to eventually the game we're going to talk about, Guardians, we still have Back 4 Blood on the list, so I'm sure we're going to probably cruise that, hopefully this weekend. If we're not
that would be nice.
So, with that being said, guys, leave down in the comments below what you've been up to, any trips you had planned, any games you've been playing, any movies you've been watching. So, our main story, guys, is that Guardians of the Galaxy is out, and this game is developed by Eidos Montreal and published by Square Enix, and it came out on October 26, 2001, and I got to say, a lot of people, myself included, were a little skeptical on this game because this is kind of following the piggyback coattails of the game they just did with Avengers. And Avengers came out, it tried to be more than what it could be, in my opinion. It tried to do a bunch of different things, and it kind of fell on its face. And luckily, Game Pass was able to kind of help the growth out because now it's doing fairly well. But this game's actually doing getting good reviews. It's getting a lot of 8 and 9s. Essentially, it's a single-player experience, but would you agree that it's like a mixed group dynamic when it comes to the gameplay? So it feels like you're playing a team, even though it is a linear story.
Right, pretty much. I would say it's almost like a close thing I maybe think of like Final Fantasy 12 vibe. It's not RPG related, but the same way when you're playing, you don't feel like it's just you. You don't really feel like you're alone because you're controlling these other people that are also doing their own thing, though, at the same time.
Yeah, so the game is doing very well, and I got to say that after following the Avengers, a lot of people kind of had an issue with how Avengers look. There was a lot of this like uncanny valley, like people were calling it like the Kmart version of the Avengers, you know, like Iron Man looked off, Thor looked off, and I think Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of not taking that hit because out of all the characters, Quill's really the only one you can compare him to because when you've got Rocket, he's a raccoon. You know, there's nothing that's going to take you out of that. Groot, half the cast is another color. Groot is a tree. Drax is, green. Gamora is green. And if you break it down, in my opinion, Quill's really kind of the only one that stands out, but it's not enough to me be like, oh, this game looks off, especially if you compare it to like Avengers. Did you look at the look at all? Did it throw you off how it looks?
At first, I felt like maybe it was a little bit, but I mean, I got past it because I'm super into comics, so I'm used to these people looking different. I think you'll definitely have that contrast if you're someone going into this who you didn't care for Guardians of the Galaxy, you don't really read comics, you're not really into that sort of stuff, but you love the movie, and now you're going to play the game. The same way, like, no matter what, when I see Iron Man, though, Robert Downey Jr. put Iron Man on the map for me. Mm-hmm. So when I see like he's the embodiment of Iron Man, that even if you made someone else that even looks like him, even on the last one, I don't think it was like terrible, but I'm just like, man, it's the RDJ syndrome, which isn't anyone else's fault. So I would never knock anything for points on it unless it was like really, really bad design or something stupid. But I feel like everyone here does justice, but they kind of fix that in a little way too, to where when you're playing, there's all kinds of different costumes, but there is one for each person for their movie likeness if you want that you can find in there.
Yeah, it's actually I actually have been using the Drax movie version in my game just because I like the way that looks better. But with that being said, even the like personality of all these characters is like, obviously we were introduced to them either if you were a comic book reader back in the day, or at least I think it's 2014 the movie. Like you got like a window into like these guys' personality, and I think this game does a good job like taking the foundation of those characters so they're recognizable immediately, but giving them all their own like heart and flavor and personality. Because like you take Drax is still this guy that takes sarcasm in an interesting way. But I like this version of Drax. He's not, and I don't want to use the wrong word, I don't want to say like more idiotic, but like he is very
not as
like,
simple.
Yeah, he's got a different like diplomacy to him. Rocket is still Rocket. My favorite character has actually been Gamora. They actually kind of like let her breathe a little bit. She actually has like a little more empathy to her. She actually cracks a few jokes. And the cool thing is when you're playing this game, you can find a lot of these collectibles and they go back to your ship. And then when you're back on your ship, you can actually interact with them, and it gives you more storyline with those characters. And they like Gamora does one thing where she talks more about Thanos, and then she talks about the war that she was in and how she got the name, the deadliest assassin in the galaxy or something. I was like, that's cool. They're able to flesh these characters out in a way that's not just watching a 2-hour movie. Like you actually get some behind the scenes dialogue with these characters.
I agree that it does do an amazing job at fleshing them out, because you don't even have to do it. Like you said, they have the collectibles, but as you're playing, the group will be bantering like they always do. There's always options for you can push it, it'll come up, and there's different dialogue choices for you to do on there. So like at one point Rocket does something and you can choose to either be like, hey man, like what the fuck, cool your jets, like you either need to rein it in or just let it go and be like, yeah, you know what, it was an accident, an honest mistake. And then that kind of changes your interaction with the character. Or you can just not do it. There's like a little timer and you just let it go, and it just gives you like I'm not going to reply, but my character's still going to talk to him as I go further on. And that does like a different, it really makes you feel like that sort of dynamic with them.
Yeah, and it's cool because I think it's more believable that, because you only get to play as Peter Quill, and it's kind of more believable as him being able to kind of take these different approaches to answers. Because like a character like Rocket really only has one track mind of what his version's going to be. So
right.
It is kind of balanced. You know, half the group will do one recommendation for a plan, the other half will do this, and it's up to you to kind of decide how you want to lean on that. But so the look overall looks really good for this game. The gameplay is kind of what I want to talk about next. You've been playing it, I mean, how do you like it so far?
I actually really like it. I think what I noticed right off the bat was I always go through and I check the difficulty just to see kind of what each thing does, and there is crazy amount of accessibility in here, because even when you put it on easy,
surprising amount.
Yeah, even when you put it on easy, you don't just have to leave it at easy. You can go down and you can change it to it's on easy, but maybe enemies do a little more damage, so there's a little challenge. You can have the enemies do more damage, but you could also make it so that way your overshield recharges a lot quicker. You can make it to where your overshield doesn't overcharge quicker, but enemies do less damage. There's just all kinds of different ways that you can play this on top of the combat. With the combat, there's all kinds of, you're going through with Quill, obviously you're using your guns. I really like that there's kind of, you can either play it flat ground, but there's a lot of verticality too with his jumping boots, so you can fly up, and then that's your tactic to sit there and fly. And then individually, each person can kind of do their own thing, and you unlock abilities. So like Rocket will throw this grenade if you ask him to, that kind of decimates everyone in the area. Drax will go through and just kind of beat everyone up, versus Gamora single-handedly will focus on one character to do the most damage. I really like the variety so far.
Yeah, I think, I mean, as cool as the combat is, I do want to point out it can probably be a little messy at first, because essentially what you're doing, I think you're hitting like LB, and it'll pull up a screen with everybody, and the more you play the game, because the way the combat works is you kind of build up this ability bar that keeps scaling up. So the more excellent combos you do, mixing up everyone's moves, the more points you're going to get. And the more ability points you unlock, the more skills you're able to unlock for the characters. So as it goes on, you can unlock, 4 abilities per each person. So as you're fighting, Rocket's grenade turns into, 4 more abilities, and Gamora's turns into 4 more. So It's a little, I don't want to say intimidating, but it's a little messy, I think, when it comes to memorizing who's able to do what, which ability you're hitting at first. But the game is kind of cool in a way that it's kind of hard to lock down exactly what it is, because it's a single player narrative, but there's points where you're doing like detective work, and because his visor will light up things that you can follow and look for clues and
almost
stuff.
like Batman style.
Yeah, and then there's also different puzzles. You got the group abilities where Drax will be able to pick something up and move it. Rocket's gonna be able to climb through little holes. Gamora can run up walls. Groot can make bridges. And then there's I don't know if you got to the point where you're doing the combat fighting with the Milano. There's actually like space.
Oh, I did the flying, yeah.
So like that's a cool little point that they were able to add into the game. And then I mean, there's also the ability, like Andrew was saying, the verticality. Like, it kind of turns it into almost like some missions are like platforming. You know, you've got to be able to, like, Quill to kind of explore. So the game was actually able to incorporate a lot of cool features without being overbearing. Is that right, you think?
Yeah, I don't feel like it was, like, too bloated at all. I think my favorite thing, though, out of all of the combat features so far is once you have your, like, meter boosted all the way, you can do this huddle up thing where you get together with Quill,
awesome.
And you're supposed to give like a victory speech to everyone, and you can do it wrong, and if you do it wrong, you're the only one who gets the bonus. But if you do it right, then everybody gets the bonus. So like the one that I did,
and you get healed, I think.
Yeah. The one that I did, he's like, you know what? They're laughing at us. They think we're kicking our ass, but you know what? We laugh in the face of danger, and we're gonna beat them. Like let's 1, 2, 3, go team or whatever. And then he turns on his headphones, so there's music playing over whatever it is that you're doing, and the music selection has actually been crazy good so far. Like I really like the way they incorporated it. I felt like that was going to maybe be one of the cheesier things, and
because it easily could be.
Yeah,
easily could be.
And I think the most surprising thing for me is we saw this game maybe I think like in the summers when they revealed it, and the last 2 times we've seen it, it looked rough.
Yeah, it did. I mean, we were both looking at it going, ooh.
I have not had any problems with it. Like, no stutter. It hasn't been lagging. No jumping all over the place. It looks good. It's not like a gorgeous game or anything. But, again, it's not like it looks like low D rendering half the time. I'm getting to a spot and I'm just, like, stuttering along. Have you had any issues at all?
I did have one issue, actually. I was going to pick up a collectible, and it went to go read it. It was one of the things where, like, it'll give you, like, the
hologram?
Yeah, and it gives you, like, a breakdown of whatever it is it's talking about. And I don't know if maybe I picked it up too fast and tried to back out, but it glitched and froze me. So I was stuck in there, and I actually had to shut down the game. But it's been my only problem, and I'm on chapter 6, I think, out of 16. So that's far in the game, I've only had one issue, and and I haven't had any problems since. But sticking with the combat before we leave, I do like the fact that even though you are still playing as Quill, there's a lot of like crossover combos. So like there's like if you're beating up people enough, you can hit like there's a Y trigger that lets it so that you can like cut off the tail of something, or Groot will smash something down. But then there's a YB combo that you can get with each character, which is actually an achievement for each ability that you can do. And so I think it's just a really interesting approach that they were able to kind of figure out exactly how to make a single player game feel like you're playing a group of characters. So I don't know, overall I think that was a impressive feat that they're able to do. So with gameplay being done and out of the way, Andrew, overall how do you like this game? I mean, from front to back, I mean, do you think this game is worthy of an 8 or 9? Is there anything that you like that's standing out?
I'm loving it so far. Like, I think this game perfectly encapsulates what Guardians of the Galaxy is. I think this game does for me what the movie did for me, because I didn't know who they really were before the movie, even though I knew who they were because I had like read comics and stuff, but I didn't know like deep lore on them or anything like that, or who they are really as people fleshed out. And this game does that for me. Like, if you have never even seen the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, you can play this game and perfectly understand who they are, and then go see the movie and be like, dude, this is it right here.
Yeah, it's actually well said, man, because it could be someone's first introduction into the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I don't think you'd be missing a beat. Like, it's a great introduction to these characters. But one of the things I like is that really the only thing it does in terms of like leveling up the characters is it has like a workbench system. Simple thing, go up there, improve your visor, improve your boots, improve, your guns, a couple of the abilities. So I like that this game didn't try to be more than it could be. In a world where we live in where so many games try to be like an open world
throwing everything and the kitchen
sink. They have
sink,
a crafting system, they have a card game system. Like, it just is the bare bones, but sometimes the bare bones is enough when done right. So I don't know, I think they did a really good job. I don't want to say they learned from Avengers, because I don't think the window's too wide to where they would have been able to see what they could have changed. But I like the approach to where, like, Avengers, I think, just went down a completely wrong path, and it could have been a lot better. Where Guardians is like, hey, we can still make a really cool comic book property.
This is what Avengers should have been.
Yeah, we live in a world where Spider-Man's out, and it's awesome. Guardians of the Galaxy is a pretty close second, man, in terms of comic book games in the modern generation of consoles. So, I don't know. I'm actually loving this game.
Do you have any negatives?
I was gonna say, do you have any cons? Because my biggest one, as much as I love the voice acting, I feel like Quill sounds too much like a cartoon version of Iron Man with the way he kind of says some things. And I don't think Rocket Raccoon sounds different enough from Quill. Sometimes they'll be talking and I don't know it's Rocket. I think it's Quill. Because like his voice doesn't have that Bradley Cooper kind of version of like him. So I I kind of get lost in like knowing exactly, because they all kind of sound, I don't say monotone by any means, but like Drax, Rocket, and Quill can all sound kind of the same at certain points, unless because I put subtitles on.
I always put subtitles
to know who exactly is talking. So sometimes I miss who it is, but I mean, if that's my only gripe, that's not much to worry about.
See, I haven't noticed that yet, so I haven't really had that issue. The only issue I have, and it's not even with this game, it actually comes with like more news and the idea of the games, is I'm a little more concerned, especially with how good this is. Spider-Man is the oversaturation now. Like, I don't want to see 40 Marvel games coming out within the next couple of years, because they already announced Wolverine, and then they announced, or leaked, or something happened today, that Amy Hennig, the person who was at Naughty Dog and then went on to like EA and stuff, is also working on another Marvel property. I'm like, I don't really want to see like 90 Marvel properties out there, because then you're just gonna have this huge saturation of, you know, you can't pick who's good, who's not, whatever. That I'm worried everyone's just gonna kind of start chasing that trend where, okay, now we're gonna have 50 million superhero games instead of just like original IP or something that could have been worked on.
No, yeah.
So that's nothing to do with the game, and that's kind of like off the topic, but it is kind of with it following that trend.
This could open the floodgates,
yeah.
Because Batman started it, Spider-Man capitalized on it, and if we get Guardians good in a couple
with this
more,
and then Wolverine and
so,
just chasing that trend is not something I really want to see.
So if you guys have been playing Guardians of the Galaxy, let us know. Leave down in the comments your thoughts on the game. From the two of us, I think so far so good. So our next story, guys, is, and I know we're a little behind because it came out a week or so ago, but hey, we've been gone for a week or so. But I did want to talk about the Uncharted movie trailer that dropped, and this is scheduled to be released on February 18th, 2022. And this is one of those movies that kind of went through, hell to get made. It had about 9 directors attached to it once upon a time. And it goes back as far as 2009, where Mark Wahlberg was originally cast as Nathan Drake. So this movie has been, trying to get developed, a lifetime ago. And this is going to be one of the official games under PlayStation Productions, which is their movies and TV segment that's made for developing their game IP. And people were kind of worried, man, especially, I don't know if you remember that article that was out a while ago where Tom Holland was talking about Uncharted, and he was talking about how he was taking the approach of being stoic and trying to get muscular and flexing his arms and all this stuff. And people were like, well, this doesn't sound like our Nathan Drake. But I gotta say, once I saw the trailer, I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be good by any means, but I was a little relieved. I'm like, oh wow, this does look like it's paying enough, homage to the games, but it looks like it's going to do some originality to it, where I'm like, oh, this actually looks pretty good. Now, I know it's supposed to be a prequel from the game. I don't like the way they're wording this. It's a prequel from the games, but yet we saw 2 direct scenes from Uncharted 3 and 4.
Games, yeah.
So it's like, well, then if just make it a standalone thing. Like, don't even tie it in with the game. A spiritual, successor from the games.
Take the Resident Evil route and just pick and choose what you want and put it in the movie.
So I don't know. You saw the trailer, Andrew. Are you worried any more, any less? Do you think it looks good?
I don't think the trailer looks. The trailer.
The cheesy trailer.
The trailer doesn't look cheesy, and it doesn't feel like, oh man, here comes another like typical video game movie. It looks like shit, whatever. It looks good. I just kind of don't really care for Tom Holland as like Nathan Drake. Like, he really just doesn't do it for me. And I don't know if it's maybe because they didn't really show off like him so much as like a character versus that like 15-minute like Nathan Fillion thing we got like a few years ago,
which was fantastic,
which was amazing. That he just doesn't come off as like this Indiana Jones guy who could fight his way out of like a situation. The only reason I believe Tom Holland could beat anyone up is because Spider-Man has that accelerated strength. He could stop like fucking Winter Soldier's arm. I believe that because he's Spider-Man. I don't believe that this guy could take on 3 people in hand-to-hand combat.
And as much as I like the trailer, I didn't see enough of like the personality, because even when I was watching it again, I'm like,
that's what I felt like it was lacking.
Yeah, I'm like, why didn't you just go with Mark Wahlberg? Like, he doesn't look... I mean, obviously, Mark Wahlberg's probably closer to 50, and Drake is probably around 30 in the games, and I think they're going with a mid-20 version for the movie. But I'm like, Mark Wahlberg looks like he could still play Nathan Drake, and it's cool that he's Sully. I like that he's still in the movie. I like that he's still attached in the movie. But I'm with you, man. Tom Holland is... And I like Tom Holland.
Yeah, I like Tom Holland.
It's just... I don't know. I didn't get any of the quippy person, because he's quippy. We know we can talk. We know we can run his mouth. We see it in Spider-Man,
right?
But I didn't see it as Nathan Drake, though. I mean, the kid barely cracks a smile. He's kind of like, my brother Sam. You know what I mean? I was like, okay. But again, it's a trailer. We're gonna see 3-4 more before February hits. But I mean, I'm looking forward to it because PlayStation Productions they got about 10 different projects that they're moving forward with IP, and we know that Last of Us is going to be a show that they've got moving forward, and Twisted Metal is going to be the next big one.
I don't know why.
Does this trailer give you any more hope at all, or does it move the needle at all that these might be better than we thought after seeing this trailer looking a lot better than I think most of us did?
I think that The Last of Us was going to be good no matter what, because there's so many different zombie shows out there that you can already say, like, okay, you know, we know what to do and what not to do based off the success of this and the fall of the other. And you already have a juggernaut too with like The Walking Dead to say, okay, we can do this, this, and this, but here's where they really misstepped. Here's where they lost audiences. Here's where people started saying that it wasn't getting good anymore. So we can follow in their footsteps. They crawled so that we could walk. Versus,
I like that.
I don't really understand what you do with like a Twisted Metal show. To me, that sounds almost as cheeseball as like that Death Race movie with like Jason Statham.
Oh, Frankenstein. That was a remake. Isn't Anthony Mackie attached to do Twisted Metal? Isn't he supposed to be in it? I thought I read something like that. I mean, I could see Twisted Metal being cool if they know how to make it cool. You know what I mean? If you can take the idea and not cram it into a fucking idea that like that is just guys racing to kill each other, and put something, I don't know, unique behind it. I mean, everything has a possibility, a potential, but I'm with you. Why are we starting with this? You have some of the best IP. You have God of War. You have Horizon Zero Dawn. You've got a ton of things. You're going to do Twisted Metal?
A thing that's got like, you know, there's one chick who drives like a fucking love bug with flowers and stuff on it versus the Grim Reaper versus some dude whose head's on fire. You have like all these weird otherworldly characters that are cars and a motorcycle. One dude's literally a fucking standing on a platform and his arms are attached to fucking giant ass monster truck wheels, and that's who's wheeling around. That you want me to watch a show based on that? Like that, maybe the game was like fine and it's kind of, it was cool as a kid. I don't know if I'd be into it now.
You get that sweet tooth tattoo on your back.
Fuck.
But I don't know. I've got to say, I'm a little relieved at how the trailer came out. It did look a lot better than expected.
For sure.
I think everyone's kind of a little, I don't want to say mad, but like the scene where he jumps off the box into the plane, I'm like, that was so video game. Like, yeah,
it was cool as fuck. I actually liked it.
But I know that was the part where it's like, what? you're jumping off a plane that's moving forward, and he Spider-Man'd it right there. And that's where I was just kind of like, that's hilarious. But
I will say this does look like it has definitely more production value in it than that Resident Evil trailer did.
Yeah,
or even comparing it to something more recent than that would be that Tomb Raider trailer. From the movie, obviously, that's already out that I didn't happen to watch. I know you did.
Yeah.
I think Alicia Vikander.
Alicia Vikander. Which I think the number one grossing video game movie of all time is still World of Warcraft. Even though nobody watched it, I did. I thought it was pretty good. But I like the Alicia Vikander Tomb Raider, and I do hope they make a sequel.
I just haven't gotten around to watching it. Just like I also didn't watch Assassin's Creed either.
I like Assassin's Creed too, but that was definitely on the bottom. But I think if this movie does good, and they do good with the next few projects they have, I think we are slowly moving into good video game IP. But we've been saying that for a while now. Obviously, Pokemon and Sonic did something good, but like, doesn't it feel like that was almost 10 years ago at this point?
Right. It seems like there should have been a lot more stuff in between. I'm just glad the further and further we get from like bad casting shit, because this, although he doesn't seem like he's like, you know, my Nathan Drake or what I picture Nathan Drake to be, it's not like fucking as bad as the Prince of Persia casting was.
Yeah, so guys, you've seen the trailer. Leave your comments down below what you think of the casting and the overall look of the movie with Tom Holland as Nathan Drake and Mark Wahlberg as Sully. So with that being done, guys, let's move into riffing it up. So I'm gonna go first with this one because I think mine's a tad quicker, but
I would like you to go first.
Yeah, this one, I mean, I don't want to make fun of something, but it is to me kind of hilarious. So this comes to us from the USA Today, and so this guy he did fraud, and he was able to receive a bunch of money for COVID funds. He had a small business. He made illegal reports, and he got
Didn't he take out like a PPP loan?
Let me see what we got here. So he claimed he was the sole owner of a business that brought in $235,000 in a 12-month span and had 10 employees. On August 4th, 2020, he received a deposit of $85,000 into his bank account. Roughly 5 months later, on or around January 8th, prosecutors said, Odumines spent $57,789 of funds deposited to help his business on a Pokemon card. The card was not described in court documents, and rare Pokemon cards can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So this guy not only...
I read it was a Charizard.
Was it? And that's what I would
guess. But it wasn't
like
a first edition. It was just like a good grade Charizard.
I think this guy might have been from... he's from Dublin. Okay, so yeah, he not only falsely applied for money and got it, but then he used the bulk of it to fucking buy a Pokemon card in terms of getting it to be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then probably eBay that motherfucker. And it's just like, dude, people are still acting wild right now, dude, even in these trying times, Andrew.
I feel like he should have gone a little bigger with the story, because thinking about it and hearing it out loud, that doesn't sound like a lot. A business that brings in $230,000 a year.
Well, I think the only way you could qualify for it was to be a small business. That's the only way you could have gotten a loan.
Maybe, because
that faked a small business.
That sounds
to
small.
Get the loan.
$230,000, but you have 10 employees.
That's what it says.
That doesn't sound like any money at all. But
I don't know. What do you think? Do you think it was a Charizard? Oh wait, hold on. This guy says. Okay, so one of the tweets says the record price for any Pokemon card has been set by US Tonight. This SGC grading gold label Charizard sold for $369,000. So a top shelf, top tier card. Charizard goes for almost $400,000. So,
dude, they sell like crazy.
I don't know. It's just weird that these guys are spending this kind of money when people need it on fucking shit like this.
I wouldn't spend that kind of money on a card.
Yeah, so no. I don't know. I thought it'd be something to bring to you guys' attention. Not so much game related, but interesting enough.
My riff is game related, and it is something that we talked about actually on the last episode, and that is in regards to that new Nintendo pack that they added to, of course, your Nintendo Switch subscription, so you play 64 games. The problem is, it doesn't run right. It runs like shit, like we almost kind of said maybe it will, and it's going to be like a little weird playing. And I've seen it in all kinds of reports online. Lots of people have reported about it in various places. Lots of people have left comments about it. I just have a small list here, and these are some of the most egregious ones out of what's been on there. One, to start off, more importantly than anything, there's very, very noticeable input lag, which makes it almost impossible to play, especially if you're going to play something where you need that strict time movement like Mario 64.
Especially with speedrunners.
What doesn't make any sense at all, too, is some of the button layout is like reversed. So the way they have it set on the control, you can't remap it, but like let's say it was Mario 64, they'll have the A and the B switch, so now you're putting your thumb somewhere you weren't used to putting it, and it doesn't make any sense for that like natural memory of how you had it go, or for what even makes sense for what they do with their modern games. So that makes no sense. There's frame rate issues. I think the even bigger thing is that there's really bad, either the music is all garbled, it's sped up, or there's like sound delay. It'll be like half a second off, 10 seconds off, 5 seconds off, to where you're noticing it, especially if you're playing like Mario Kart, Mario 64, where like it's just all over the place. And so asking people to pay for this and then make this shit unplayable, just the music would already be a big enough issue for me that I wouldn't even want to touch any of this, that the rest of that shit is just crazy.
Yeah, there was a couple of guys on Twitter, especially like speedrunner guys, that were doing side-by-side comparisons of like the N64 next to the Wii U console, and then the Switch. And the Switch ran the shittiest, like, by far. So,
which is mind-blowing.
Yeah, the newest one out is the worst one. But like, to kind of say what Andrew was saying, I saw this comparison, and they were showing the N64 controller, because if you remember, the N64 controller has 6 buttons on the right, the A, B, and then 4 C buttons. And without remapping it, the A, B stays where it's at in a weird position, but they make the other buttons that replace 2 C buttons. So like, it throws it off. So it's almost like makes you have to buy now the $50 64 controller.
Yeah, and if you look at it too, see, look, the B and the A is the wrong fucking direction.
Yeah,
it's
going
the
so
wrong
now
way.
it goes in the other way, and then 2 other buttons are replaced with the C. So
it makes no sense.
You're losing 2 buttons, and the fact that you can't remap this thing is just like, who's making these decisions? Like, Nintendo, like, who is making these executive calls to go, yeah, and how many people play this and went like, oh yeah, that works. That works. I mean, obviously they want you to buy the $50 64 controller, but it's like, you made this thing virtually unplayable, or at least unrecognizable to people that have an affinity for the N64. So I don't know, it's terrible.
Yeah, dude, for $80 a year for any price amount this year, this shit sucks.
Yeah, so that is the end of our riffs, guys. If you have anything you want to bring to our attention, leave it down in the comments below. But we're going to move into questions of the week, and our question comes from Paige Pagoda, and they write, what was your favorite game to play as a kid? I mean, maybe we've answered this 1,000 times. I don't know. What stands out in your head?
I've had a few, but something that I know that I played religiously, especially because I have lots of brothers and sisters, so we all played in kinds of different ways, is Super Smash Bros. Melee on the GameCube. I spent a ton of time playing that, as well as Mario Kart Double Dash, but that was the most, so... Doing weird competitions, doing us versus the bots, putting bots on each other's teams.
So your kid system was the GameCube?
No, it was, as a kid, well, I still count that as a kid.
No, definitely. But I'm saying that you would have been more familiar with that versus me being like more of a Super Nintendo when I was like 8 to 10.
Yeah, because I had a Super Nintendo. It really picked up for 64 with me, but I didn't really start.
You still do have one.
Yeah, it was. I
just like that's like your version of like you remember like your kid times where we're playing Melee and shit like that.
That's more what I think of like going into it, because I want to say I had a GameCube, like even going into like high school, the GameCube was still, not that it was ever hot, but was like hot. I think it came out when I was like 12.
Nice, yeah.
So that's about the age when you start getting like naturally competitive, when you're into those games and developing like some sort of like
top.
You're developing like a skill and working on whatever, versus, you know, with the 64 and the weird ass shaped controller, this is where you first get the offset thumbs and everything. So I felt like that's my first noticeable memory. But I mean, obviously, like everyone played like James Bond, GoldenEye, Perfect Dark and stuff like that. That's the one that stands out to me the most, and that's my fondest memory.
Yeah, the one that stands out to me as a kid, because I have a twin brother. So if I was playing a single player game, I talk about Super Mario RPG all the time. I've beaten it over and over again, multiple endings, different characters. But Harvest Moon on Super Nintendo is a game that I played like hours and hours and different endings, and it's a lot of fun. So, I mean, obviously the new Harvest Moons are just so much better, so much more in depth, so much more to it than that. But that old school, simple, 3-location spot was fantastic. But
I think it's weird that we... Sorry, I didn't...
Oh, no worries.
I think it's weird that we have, even though you have a brother, maybe it's because I have more siblings, that more of my memories are towards these big multiplayer games. Like, I could have, the first thing in your head, I don't know why, because I was thinking it would have been like Mario Party or something like that, but you just rattled off like 2 single player games.
Yeah, well, I like yours because you have a family that goes, you had an older brother, or are you the oldest?
No, I'm the oldest, but everyone else is like
you had people that you could play a bunch of different systems, but like Geno and I remember playing a lot, especially 2-player games, was like Contra. Like then we would go back to like the Nintendo. Like Contra was a game I remember playing all the time, and obviously we can always say the Mario games and all Donkey Kong and stuff like that, but Contra was the one I remember, the 2 players, even though I think it's worse to play with 2 players than just by yourself. That's one that always stands out in my head. So excellent question, Paige Pagoda. Leave your answer down below. So before we go, guys, we are giving away an Xbox Series X, and we're going to give you a quick clip of how you can enter and how you can win. So check this video out right now. Hey guys, this is Craig with Last Call Productions, here to tell you about the Last Call Gaming giveaway for the Xbox Series X that we're going to be doing on this channel. But there's a couple of things you need to know in order to win it. First, you must be subscribed. So if you're on this channel, if you're listening to this right now, drop down and hit that subscribe button. The second thing is that this is going to be running on our Last Call Gaming show that we do every week. The contest is going to start from episode 105, and it's going to run all the way to 112. 112 will be your last chance to enter the contest, because on the following week, on episode 113, that is when we're going to announce the winner. Now, to enter, you must leave a comment in each episode that says hashtag LastCallX. That is going to be your valid entry into the contest. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to pull one name out of each episode from 5 to 12 and put those names into a hat. And then on episode 113, we're going to pull one lucky winner that's actually going to win the Series X. Now, this contest is going to be open for everyone. All countries are available. If there is any issue, please feel free to email us at lastcallproductions@gmail.com, or you can leave it in the comments down below for any questions, and we will get back to you and let you know for sure. The only hiccups may be shipping or anything that might prohibit us from sending it to your region. And as always, guys, good luck. All right, guys, that is the entry to the contest. Make sure you follow those rules to a T. But with that being said, guys, that brings us to the end of episode 111, guys. We will see you on episode 112. So until next time, my name is Craig Perales, and that is Mandrew Montemare.
Happy Halloween.
Cheers.